is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast. We are back, man. We have Meech, we have Spatial here. We needed a week off. I think all of us kind of needed a little breather. We're here now, man. We're all here. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. It's funny that last week actually went past, and I kind of I was like, dang, we missed a week. It was just a lot going on. I felt like so, but we're back. We're good. I'm feeling good, man. So.
Same here. It's kind of going through a little bit of stuff, but everything's kind of in a bit more of a stable place. Content's back on schedule. We're going to get back into it, and I'm really, really excited. We kind of took that extra week because we got some more stuff to cover, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to really deep dive into a couple of key topics that have kind of flowing through the community, so I'm excited. There's definitely lots to talk about, and we all kind of have different approaches to how we're playing the mode. So that is going to be very interesting to see how it all kind of ties together. Because SpacialJones, you just buy like everything you see, pretty much, right? You're a collector, like you just.
I don't buy everything I see, but I do buy what I want. So that's kind of my thing. Like. It's not really useful to do pack openings or buy packs, right? But every now and again I do. Like I hit on the Hollow Zion. That was tight. That gave me a lot of MT. But yeah, man, I'm kind of just picking and choosing my spots. Like, outside of the KD, I don't really see anything worth locking in right now. And the KD is even a little too pricey for me, so I'm good.
And me, just moment of silence.
Sorry, mini heart attack.
Oh man. And then Meech, you've kind of got like a more balanced approach to it. You're not buying so many things, but you are locking in certain things that you really want to, kind of like keying on those guys that are going to make a difference for your team and going at it like that. And then me, I'm just not buying anything and just stacking MT. So talk about your approach a little bit, Meech.
Yeah, mine's is definitely a little bit different. I guess we're really on kind of like three separate wavelengths. For me, I'm really just kind of taking in trying to do what I can do without really spending as much money. Like I would say for the time, well, up to this point, like factually, this isn't like just stuff I'm making up. I got the half pass. And then I spent $30 of VC that was for my player build. I haven't spent anything outside of it. But the way I'm approaching the game is that, I would say for the most part, at least for like what I'm doing, you make quite a bit of MT just playing, and I have a little bit more time to play. So kind of like you said, a little bit more, I'm taking more of those risks on, if I see something that I kind of want to go after. Because 2K has given us this ability to like open up these, 10s and 20s with MT. I'm going after it, man. Like I said, I was recently just able to lock in Steph.
Nice.
And yeah, it took some grinding. It took some grinding for me. I'm kind of just trying to give an example because it kind of puts it in perspective of how I'm approaching the mode. But yeah, so like looking at the pack, so off the built up MT I had. I bought Hakeem outright.
Nice.
I had enough MT for that. I did the challenge. I got Brooke Lopez out of the challenge pack. And then after that, I really wanted Steph, so I kind of said, you know what? Let me just see if I'm gonna go for it. So after I got my Hakeem, after I did Brooke, I got my Tatum because I was waiting on that to drop. We'll get into that later. And then I said, you know what, I'm gonna just rip a 20. I'm gonna rip the 10 or whatever it is, because it was 10, deluxe packs and the odds were decent. I ended up pulling, I pulled Mullen, I pulled Spreewell, which covered the rubies. I pulled like 4 of the emeralds, and then I pulled Drazen. And then so at that point, I was just 200K off of, locking in Steph, and I just got right back into playing unlimited, playing salary cap, playing some TTO with the event, and then I'm up on 200K locked in stuff. So I'm being a little more risky, but it's just because I know that we can get this MT back while playing the game. So, it's kind of what I'm doing. Not getting KD. There's no chance, but it hurts. But, hey, what are you going to do?
I mean, maybe eventually you can scoop them up, a week or two down the line. Who knows? Who knows how it goes? But my approach has been very, very drastically different than both of you guys'. I haven't even got like a pass, a pro pass or Hall of Fame pass or anything like that.
Wow.
I did get the championship edition that gave me the Ruby Kobe. Got me a little bit of head start on the MT and stuff like that. But pretty much I haven't bought a card above a Sapphire the entire year.
Wow.
Okay. So the Rubies and Amethysts that are on my team have either been pulled from challenges or agendas that, we got those guaranteed equal chance packs a couple weeks ago for the agendas for Rubies. Just completing modes, stuff like that. And right now I'm sitting at 1.1 mil MT.
Got my KD money.
So I've made sacrifices, but I've also really, really enjoyed playing with some of the lower tier cards. I found kind of these freaking budget demons that kind of do exactly what I need them to do, And then also, and this we'll get into this when we cover gameplay, but I also, when I go into Unlimited, there are times where I match up with teams that are more powerful than mine, but I don't feel like I get those top tier teams yet. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So it's not full of like the whole God Squad mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my perception of gameplay is probably drastically different than both of you guys is because of that as well. But like I said, there are many ways to skin a cat, as they say, there's many ways to play the mode and kind of enjoy it. And I really want to get into that subject just really, really deep and just explore the different perspectives of it, because we've seen so much of the timeline, being like, this is unsustainable. You can't keep up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my biggest question is like, why do we feel the need that you have to keep up with every single card all the way through effortlessly, So I want to get your perspectives on that. Go ahead. Somebody take the lob and run with it.
I'll kind of start with it because I feel like it almost kind of plays into, every now and then I'll just go on like I bump a little check mark. So I get my full post, I give you all the characters you need. And I feel like sometimes I kind of go on these rants. I did it leading up into the game, kind of when, we kind of started to get the ideas that it was going to be more monetized because we had the battle pass and things like that were kind of getting revealed. You can kind of see it, right? I mean, I think everyone called it like, okay, like they're getting a battle pass. There's going to be some monetization involved with this game. I kind of spoke out about it, about just really curating your own experience, it honestly it can make or break your whole experience. If you're not really just running your own race and you're so involved with what other people are getting. Like I said, because you're chasing things that maybe either you don't have the time for, you don't have the money for, or it maybe just, your skill level at that time doesn't allow you to get it. So you're pushing beyond parameters that you may not even be able to control. And it's going to dampen it. It's going to cause, more frustration instead of just understanding, okay, this is what I can do. This is what I can afford. This is what's going to make me happy while playing the game. And so just to kind of give a personal example, we talked about the whole KD situation. Everyone knows. If you don't know, like my favorite player of all time, every single year I have every single KD, like at least trying them out, I have to change my perspective on that as of right now because I can afford to go get it, but I don't want to, and there's going to be, like when I load up into Unlimited, because I play with, higher, overall teams, I'm going to see KD every single time. I'm going to want the card. But I've already kind of talked to myself and said, hey, okay, listen, you either get this, you find a way to do it, or you pay for it. And, I'm choosing right now to just kind of ignore it because I don't feel like it's really within the cards right now. But if I just sat there and harped on, wow, I can't get KD, I probably will stop enjoying the game, which for the most part, I'm really actually enjoying the game. But if I'm trying to keep up a Hall of Fame credit card, it's just not going to be an enjoyable experience. So, like I said, that's kind of why I've approached things the way I have. It's just I know what I'm willing to spend and what I'm not willing to spend. I know what I'm willing to play, what I'm not willing to play. Like giving up the Brandon Roy grind. I've seen Brandon Roy so many times. I could have tried to keep up and do all of the modes for him, but I don't want to. I don't have fun playing TT offline. You know what I'm saying? So like, it it's almost like you're hurting yourself. I understand it's hard when you see, you're on social media, you see everybody with these cards, but if that's just something that is not going to bring your enjoyment, got to kind of push it away and find out how can I take this and make it mine? How can I take this and make it fun for me? It becomes a whole different story. So yeah, man, I get the FOMO. I get trying to keep up with every single thing. But we all have lives and stuff, man. You're not going to be able to keep up with every single piece of content that drops in the game. Neither is it worth it to really stress yourself out over. End of the day, 2K25 will be out the next year. You'll be finding something else.
So I guess my question is it 2K's responsibility to like supersede that personal accountability that you just kind of spoke about right now? So is it their job to make a game where like there's guardrails on it, where we don't have to hold ourselves accountable to like, hey, I can't overspend past what my discretionary income allows or my time and income allows?
No. It honestly is not. At the end of the day, and I don't want this to sound, as like a insensitive or just kind of like dismissive to like a consumer base, because obviously you make a product, you're delivering it to a consumer. Ultimately, the consumer is the power. If they're involved with the product, they're enjoying the product, that's the thing. But they don't have to sit there and say, hey, I understand that 180 for a Kevin Durant this early may be kind of crazy, so I'm just not gonna do it. I always kind of speak about, it's the consumer's choice, and the type of pricing, honestly, that we're seeing is because people will pay for it. So, I mean, just ask yourself, if you're a company, you had your own company, your job is to make profit, and people are going to pay for a product at a price point you put it at, why wouldn't you do it?
Yep.
And for the record, I do think the price point for that is nuts.
It's egregious. It's crazy. I wouldn't.
And also we also tend to be like, okay, well, just KD caused this. I mean, obviously you're getting all these players throughout the set. Like with Shaq, you got Booker, you got Dame, you got et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's still, to me, it's just, I mean, I know some people got it like that, and it's not much to drop that on a weekly basis and over time, but for what it is, for like a game that, again, we don't play past 9-10 months, 11 months, it's crazy to me. So I want to make it clear that I don't think the price points are like something you should be doing every week. But again, like you say, if people are willing to do it, and hey, like, what are they supposed to do? Jones, what do you think about all this, man? You've
so I think you and Meech make great points. I don't think it's 2K's or any company's job to monitor how folks want to spend in terms of if they monetize or commodify their product. But I do think that the consumers and folks around 2K, like in the community, especially on the timeline, I don't see enough of talking about buying what you want. Like Meech is the only one I've seen champion that. And then Elevate, you're a grown man. You move how you move. You don't even be like, you don't pound your chest. You just kind of do your own thing. But Meech has been the only one that I've seen talk about being responsible for my own experience and being responsible for what I'm going to opt in and not opt into. And I think that that's very important now because the mode is different. When you talk about just now a second ago, when you were like, hey, I think that this price is crazy for an early lock-in. Respectfully, is like, I don't know if y'all spent last year, because this is cheaper than a lot of the early stuff that was going on last year. Now, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not saying that, but I am saying I prefer the transparency as a spender, and I prefer just kind of knowing that I can buy, whoever I want. Like I loaded up some VC because I got some VC from being a good husband, some good husband VC. And so I was like, man, who do I want to buy today? Am I going to just outright buy Cat? Am I going to outright buy Zeke? I don't know. But I prefer that transparency because, again, and I don't spend a lot necessarily, but when I do spend, I've been screwed on them boxes before, dude, and it does not feel good. It feels really, really bad. Like, you just kind of go through my streams last year from now. I didn't start getting crazy pack luck. I think my pack luck changed when the Tim Thomas set came out. That's when you started seeing me post like, oh, I'm hitting on at least something. But before then, nah, bro, it was nasty. And so I just think that Meech's message and people like RCA who are constantly talking about ways to play is what folks need to be talking about instead of this hyper fixation on FOMO. It's kind of, to me, a little pervasive right now. And all things considered, every card is runnable right now. Like, unless you go against Shaq, you can do your thing. I don't know why more people don't talk about the Series 1 Rubies. I don't see it on my timeline. Them cards are awesome. A lot of them are awesome. Nobody's running them because everybody's talking about the latest and greatest pack. And it's weird to me when you just go, dude, a lot of these players y'all don't even really like. Like, just like, when you think about like public perception. Now, if you want to talk about constantly locking these players in behind a set, it's hard for me to defend that. I don't mind it as a spender being like, all right, if I want Luka, I'll go in for Luka. If I want Shaq, I'll go in for Shaq. But I can understand the people who go, I don't have a lot of time and I don't have that much money to spend. And now I can't get my favorite player KD until y'all decide to drop either a Moments KD or another series KD or, and what are we talking? That could be months from now, right? Technically. And that Kevin Durant is clearly going to be one of the best players in the entire mode. Like, he's going to have the animations. We know that. His Sapphire is one of the best cards in the mode right now. So he's gonna have all the stuff. And if they give him some defensive badges, Jesus Christ. Like, that card is going to be nasty.
Which they really make because they're doing this whole perfect build. Like, it seems like
you give him bronze post lock, you give him bronze clamps, and then you give him bronze fast feet. Okay, like that's the best card in the game. So I just think that like it's really, really tough for a lot of people to kind of see beyond this FOMO thing and this hyperfixation on like the number. My experience though, I've been having a lot of fun. I can't lie. I like the transparency. I honestly prefer it. But they do have some areas they need to clean up, and my opinion has basically been in line with everybody else's. I very rarely am disagreeing. I just don't want to, and that's kind of why I separated myself from the timeline, because I'm not trying to constantly harp on it on the timeline all day. Oh, look at Meech's little one, man. Oh, man, she's not happy. She's having a bad morning.
That's the best, man.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's the best. You have a beautiful family, by the way, Meech, man. You post pictures every once in a while, man. Like, I'm just like, that's a beautiful family, bro.
You guys both have beautiful families, man.
Appreciate you. Yeah, likewise.
To speak on your point, Spatial, I completely agree with you as far as the transparency goes. I've been there before, man. Like, it's been a couple of years where I'm mostly no money spent with, I'll splash here, there, but been a few years. But like 2K19, 2K20, most 2K20, it was just like, it's a Tuesday drop, $450. Friday drop, $450, maybe two 450s. I've been there, and I had less time to play, so I had, more income to just throw at it. And it was not a big deal, it's in the grand scheme of things, it was like, cool, like that's my like play money to do whatever I want with and whatever, So right. I understand that side, and it's a fun experience to an extent to play like that. But it also sucks when you get nothing from the couple boxes and you're just like, bro, like that was just like $200 down the drain, you know, like,
yep.
You know, so the transparency of this system is much better. And there is some fine tuning that we could definitely get into, and I want to get into as far as like how many lock-ins, how many big mega lock-ins, because we've seen the Shaq mega lock-in. We have another mega lock-in with KD, and we've seen some smaller lock-ins for guys like T-Mac. Now with Luka, it's kind of the same deal. And then you have certain cards that are just outright like AD, you know, AD Pippen, 2 cards that are like top tier cards that are in most people's starting lineups that are way cheaper than they would be normally in the old system. So we kind of have like a little bit of give and take. And I mean, it seems, and that's just, I guess, societies, we hyper focus on like what we don't want to be how it is, and like just totally discard everything else, you know? And that's one of the areas where like I start to get kind of like, it gets under my skin on the timeline, and I usually bite my tongue, and I usually just, you know, log off and just go do something else. But it is very frustrating when like these ideas get like championed and like paraded, and like there's so many flaws in the logic of it. You're just like totally discarding all this stuff and making an absolute statement about this little part that affects you, and like that's what the echo chamber like kind of spins, and that's what becomes the reality for like a bunch of other people that are just kind of like tapping into the timeline.
Yeah.
So how would you guys make changes to like the lock-in system and how they're sprinkling in cards that are really good as just part of the set that you have to lock in or whatever? What tweaks would you guys make to that to like make it more fair to you and to like everybody else outside of your perspective?
I'll start with it because, you know, to be honest, let's just call it is what it is, okay? At least from my eyes, I'm gonna speak from my eyes. The lock-in, honestly, I feel is there. Obviously, they're the names that they know people want.
Yes,
you have to lock in. You're obviously draining that MT. Like, I mean, you already can't, you know, the whole tax situation. So even if I buy, you know, Amethyst to go for the lock-in, it's still I may not want to sell this back, you know. But if you get the whole set, now you're really draining that MT. So it's there to drain the MT and at least either have you to build it back up or buy it, let's just be honest. Or it may lead more people to buy VC since, you know, it's probably easier. You get the discount, you know, things like that. But to change it, honestly, I feel like the easiest change that maybe most would be okay with is just scrapping the lock-in part of it. It's really the biggest part of it. And the reason I say it is because, like, even if I just go and look, you know, just towards my team, you know, I have Pippen, I have Curry now. I'm trying to see what other Ammies. Okay, AD, King. I had Rose for a minute. So even like some of like the no money spent guys, if they're playing, you know, a decent amount, you could probably get to that 140K fairly easily. I don't want to say easy, but you can get there. And if at that point you want a player, you can buy it. Even with the 60% tax, you can get some of it back. But some people just want that player, you know?
Right.
I think it would go over a lot better if people can just grind it up and get that player. Not, okay, let's just say, for instance, today, Luka dropped. Many people just want Luka. They don't want Ja and Cat and whoever the other Amethyst, DeRozan. And then they don't want all the rubies. And, you know, it just takes so much more either playing the game or just saying, forget it, I'm going to just spend it to get all the extra MT for really only wanting Luka. And it's just, I mean, we've seen lock-ins in prior 2Ks, but never to this, you know, extent where it's lock-in almost every single set, every pack drop, every single week. So I don't know. I think that they can just do away with the lock-in situation. I don't know if you want to make the lock-in some Hall of Fame badges or, a big token haul or some additional MT. I don't know, something like that maybe, but it's getting rough with people just because that's the whole idea of my team. You want to grab your favorite players, you know, and you just want to hoop with them. Like in a KD situation, I'd happily grind, some MT. We don't know what a diamond would go for in the player market, but I happily sit there and grind MT to just get KD. But to know I would have to grind the MT for a whole set lock in to get Bird, for a whole set lock in to get this, for 5 different times, it just makes it feel way too unattainable. Unless I say, here goes $180.
Okay, so I have a quick question to interject to all this. Would it be better if Shaq, KD, these guys were just like 250 KMT, just straight up, just to buy, and then every team you ran into, like they were running all these teams, these players? Would that be better or worse for the gameplay experience?
Well, so if they were cheaper, kind of like the T-Mac lock in, basically.
If it was just straight up, just 250K, just you buy Shaq right now, you buy KD right now, you buy whoever's there that's available. Do away with lock-ins. Is that a world you want to create? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Well, okay. It's kind of hard for me to approach this question. And the main reason I say it is because I run into Shaq every game anyways.
That's true.
And it's probably because of the squad I'm using. So I see it all the time. And I'm just like, wow, these like 2Ks getting banked right now. Like I'm seeing Shaq every game. And when I see Shaq, I see him with Marion, and I see him with Book and Grant. And like I see everything all at once. I see Steph with him. So it's just like I'm already seeing it every single game. But take it a step further. I mean, I know everyone doesn't want to see those overpowered cards all the time, but, and this is a but, I don't know how it works in your end, Elevate. You said you haven't been using a squad that is, that like up there in overall. And so every once in a while you'll see it. So I don't know if that's more of like, if maybe they kind of maybe fix the matchmaking, and if that can be the kind of equalizer, if you're using a low overall team, put it within a few points of that.
Right.
And so that way you're kind of, like I said, that may help the experience too. But I'm kind of taking it over more. Maybe I want to curate that experience simply because at that point, like I said, it always back to the consumer. And if people are getting the cards that they want, I don't know if I can be angry about that at the end of the day.
It's fair. And I asked the question, genuinely, not with like, not trying to spin it to like get you to think how I think. I want to hear your perspective on it. And Jones, same with you, man. I'd love to hear your perspective on that. And I agree with your take on the matchmaking. To me, like they match you kind of based on skill, and then it seems like your skills are more or less in a range that's equal, and then the differentiating factor is like who's got the better team. Where I think it should be like team should be like within a certain range that's in the same ballpark, and then skill should be like who determines who wins or who loses, to an extent, and depending on mode and stuff like that. But for like your overall kind of everybody's in here type of mode, like unlimited, I think that's how it should more work. But we're definitely going to get into gameplay stuff a little bit later. I got a lot to talk about on that. But Jones, how do you feel about the lock-in stuff? And is it better if we just have no lock-ins like whatsoever? Would it be cool if we had them but they were more sporadic? How do you feel about like that whole situation?
So, and maybe this is like, I'm saying this with rose-colored glasses on, but I like the lock-ins to an extent. And I know that's not really fair when, this is now 2 big drops back to back where they're dropping big names. Like Kevin Durant, that's a big name. Luka is a big name. But the reason I like it this way, to be honest, I feel like it helps manage the power creep a little bit. You know, like, and maybe that's not purposeful, right? You know, because again, we got out of September and we're about to get a KD. So it's like the money's right there, right? The players are right there for them to choose. However, as we get closer to November, I'm almost like shell shocked by last November when we got Tim Thomas, and then in January when we got, Yao. So it's like, if this kind of slows that down, what is it? 3 more weeks until we see Kevin Durant. I'm kind of cool with the current state of online play, even though I get my head kicked in a lot. My records are not good anymore. Now, what I will say though, I don't like I like MyTeam because you can earn a lot of MT and you can earn it passively. You don't have to do a lot to earn it. However, it's kind of undeniable when Kevin Durant's going to be as expensive as he is, right? Like that's just a fact. Like that's not even an opinion. And like that level of grind, like, because it doesn't serve you in MyTeam in this mode, in this version, to be MT broke. Like I've been typically Jones is MT broke all the time. I'm not cash broke, which is why I be in the pack openings. But typically I'm always MT broke. I'm sitting on, after the pack opening I just did, I'm sitting on 774. And I was as low as 300 like last weekend, so I kind of made up a little bit when I got some hits and stuff like that. So I just feel like locking players like Kevin Durant behind this type of structure, I don't think it serves the user that well. But it serves the user well in the environment in which we play, if that makes sense. Now, do I think that there's another way to do it? I think so. Like, to me, this would have been the perfect year for almost like you drop last year's packs right now, because we got an Amy KD early in that Dreamer set. The Halloween set, we got an Amy Bron, we got an Amy Ron Artest. We got a lot of
we
big
got a whole
wings.
run of them.
Yeah,
they did the 3 version thing.
And like the only difference, from a gameplay standpoint, is we didn't have pro play. So like guys like Cade, if he doesn't have his Cade SIGs, sucks. Kevin Durant, if Kevin Durant doesn't have his Kevin Durant SIGs, he sucks. They can't do that with pro play now. So now, if we got an Amy KD now, that'd be pretty fly. You know what I mean? We get an Amy Bron now, we just got an Amy Ja. That's a big name. I think we got a Pink Diamond Ja from the Shades set last year too. So I think that there's a way for them to do it if they just took kind of like that cadence that they had last year. Because again, and a lot of people didn't like that though, because you were getting multiple pack drops with multiple players. It was like Sapphire, Amy Kevin Durant, Diamond Kevin Durant, and Pink Diamond Kevin Durant. You're getting all the same 4 players at 3 tiers. That's not really great. But I think that would work better now because people want to use the pro play cards. I think people want to use the pro play cards more than they want to use the historic cards, which is kind of a thing. Whereas like in years prior, at least for Jones, I always felt the historic players were at an advantage early because of the animations being gate kept. But that's not the case anymore. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for us to get an Amy DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray's nasty. If you explore the animations, he got some wild spin moves. That dude, and his jumper is butter this year. So it's like stuff like that I think they could do. And I think that it would probably work a little bit better and be well received. Even though, people didn't like multiple players or multiple sets with the same player pack drops last year. I think it will work better this year.
I agree. I actually do agree.
Mm-hmm. And I'm torn on it because I didn't like the concept, but there was, for example, Wilt drop early last year, and I couldn't quite grab the pink diamond right away, or I chose not to, but the diamond was within range. So it does benefit you to that extent where I just want to use this player. It doesn't have to be the top guy, and it can be like, so I see both sides of it. I think if they sprinkled that in a little bit with some of the names, it would be cool. I didn't like that it was an every Friday type of deal. Through it.
I agree with that.
because they just gave me like those vibes. Like the year before, we got those drops where it was like 5 of the same player, and it was just like that player. That was the only card, and it was like, okay, what if I don't like that player this week? I want other play. I want to fill my roster with different guys that whatever. So, but that's a personal thing because I just like making weird lineups, you know.
Right.
But that's something to explore. I mean, I think eventually we'll get different tiers of Kevin Durant, you know, of Shaq or whatever, and they don't necessarily always have to be like super locked in, whatever. That's yet to be determined, but I don't know, man. It's a very tricky, tricky topic, and I do feel for some of the guys. Like I'm not like totally heartless to people like Meech. Meech was just like. I was just like, bro, you good? Like, do I need to come over and like, you know, talk you off the ledge? Like, we all right, man?
Like personal day, I couldn't function. My heart was broken.
So I definitely I feel that, and I have my handful of guys, you know, like, luckily they gave me a Ruby Kobe that I can kind of just hold on to for a long time. But I'm also the guy that like I got the Pink Diamond Kobe on drop. You know, I was lucky enough. Shout out to my daughter Naomi who pulled him for me. And then I held on to that one until June, bro. Like he was my starting shooting guard until June. I just kept badging him up slowly. Ended up with like 40 something Hoff badges, and like I was okay. Like I was cool with that. Like I didn't need to get like the first Dark Matter Kobe. You know, I even when the Invincible dropped, like I waited like 2 months to get him, you know, like I was okay like using a version of like the card that suited my needs. But if I hadn't pulled him, I would have been, you know, I would have been in Meech's position, been like, damn, this sucks. Do I rip? Do I not? Do I whatever, you know? So I see both sides of it.
You know, it would have been kind of cool and kind of like tying both of you all together. If they had like, so like they obviously want to monetize stuff. You also don't want to keep people out of it. It would be kind of cool, I think, if we had, and then this kind of goes back to your point to Elevate that like maybe you don't want to see every single version of that card because that just takes up another spot for another player card. It would be cool if like for KD, because obviously everyone gets like a base gem level or whatever. So like for the card that, you know, is going to be the diamond or whatever the case is, kind of appease all sides. It would be kind of cool if like they came up on a base level of a card. So like let's say, all right, KD, he's going to diamond. I mean, let's just say Amy, I guess. Let's just say it, you know, Amy or whatever. And let's just say that, you know, they put the Amy in there, or let's go a little bit lower. Let's go a little bit lower to kind of encompass some other price range. Let's say they put them base level. Well, let's just say Sapphire. I don't want to go too low. Let's say Sapphire. And then I don't know, some people may not like this, but if you gave a Sapphire KD and then take care of your monetization and you put a price tag on if you wanted to get him to his full diamond potential. It's like I don't know. I guess I'm thinking of like
a paid Evo. Which kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like a paid Evo, but to ensure like that they still get, you know, ensure that they still get their monetization part of it, you know, because I don't want to I know that's part of the equation. Have it where it starts off at a Sapphire, because even me, like I would have got the Sapphire, and then maybe if just to get them up to like an Amy level, you know, it wasn't too crazy, I probably would, you know, just throw a little, okay, cool, I got my little Amy. But then the people who wanted the diamond, they can pay them, you know, I don't know, whatever price tag they wanted. And then in that same thing, it doesn't just take up another player drop. So you drop that KD, it's not going to be like you drop every single one as a player card. You can put in other players. I don't know, it was just something I kind of thought about. And me kind of being lost without
KD. Just like, how can I, it's just, you know, that meme is like all the equations floating around. Just like, how can I get this mother on the squad, man?
Legitimately, that's what it was. But
I feel you. I mean, it goes to show. So there's a couple more things I want to like touch on this topic before we dive into gameplay. I guess let's just jump into this main question. Is this a viable game to play no money spent? Let's just get a quick answer, and then we'll dive into it a little bit more. But
my quick answer is yes, it is.
Okay.
But you have to be okay with knowing that you're working your way towards having a better lineup, which means you're not going to be, depending on your availability, your schedule, you're not going to be able to maybe have as great a team as Meech right now. Meech might have more time than you. You're not going to be able to have as much firepower on your team if you're going against a half credit card player. But I feel like between the Series 1 cards, the reward cards they've given us and are continuing to give us, you can be no money spent and have a good time. Now, to your point earlier, though, with Unlimited, you probably going to get popped in Unlimited, though. Like, that's probably going to be your life. Because I just feel like, ultimately, you might fall a little too far, right? If you're going no money spent. Because now, when's the last time we got a whole set that was free after the first 2 weeks of September? They haven't done that again yet. And I thought that was going to be a weekly thing, and it should be. But if they're not doing that, then, that it's just going to fall down. It's in terms of being able to be as powerful as the people who are spending money. So you have to be okay with grinding, and you have to be okay with knowing, okay, cool, it's going to take me some time, but you can still have a good time. There's plenty to engage in MyTeam to play, not sit in menus and stuff like that, but to play modes, So yeah, I think you can be no money spent in this version than any other version. I still stand on it.
Meech, thoughts?
It's hard because anybody can be no money spent. Let's just put it that way. Mm-hmm. You can be no money spent. That's clearly a thing. Okay. Like I said, I have more time now. I was gonna say, even myself, like MyTeam wise, I've only put in $20 for the half pass. I know it's not no money spent, but
that's pretty close.
Fairly close. Mm. Yeah. But I think you can, but for everyone's expectations of why they play MyTeam, no.
That's fair.
And I think it's just because, when you come into MyTeam, you're not expecting, well, most I would assume are not expecting to play with Cliff Robinson. I want LeBron.
Right.
I want Giannis.
Right.
I want Luka. Even you take it back a little bit. I want Jordan.
Right.
I want Kobe. I want, John Stockton. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have these expectations in MyTeam where you're not coming in to play with the role players. No one's besides team builders. No one's like, oh my God, they just dropped Robert Horry.
Right.
No one cares. Or no one cares as much, I should say. So you can be, but you have to spend way more time. And this is kind of where I, feel for the, the auction house guys. Because the ones who legitimately work their way in an unlegitimate market. Things were price fixed, so maybe you were selling stuff that shouldn't have been going for a price, but it was. But that was their way, and that happened with the snipers, shout out Lethal SP, guys like that who show people, you can get to a point where you get your players from working this market, whether that was an hour a day in the day, whatever the case is, content days making, a bunch of MT in, 30 minutes, hour, whatever the case is. It allows them to get to their experience without maybe the time that they had to sit and play unlimited, play through salary cap, play through all of that stuff. So, yes, but it just really depends on your expectations. Because if you're coming in expecting to get the Luka, get the KD, get the Giannis, I don't know. And if you don't have the time to, sorry, it's probably not happening.
Right.
So, yes, but like I said, just based on expectation of what you're looking to get out of it.
Yeah, it's definitely a tougher road if you don't want to like spend the money and you don't have a ton of time to just like play. then it's definitely a much tougher road and a more like grindy road. I think, because I mean, what does it take to play? You get like 4,000 to 5,000 per like MT. What's the cap at? Is it 5,000? Is it 4,000?
It's 5. I think it's 5
cap
in
is
Dom.
5.
Yeah, it's 5 in Dom. Not in unlimited though. Can it go higher?
No, it's 5.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you have that for like essentially a 25-30 minute game. So it can feel a lot more grindy, especially if you were really, really just inept, or not inept, opposite. If you're really proficient at working the auction house and you just cornered your market and you knew how to just like churn like a consistent, 50 auctions at all times type of deal, and you had that process going, I feel for you. I get it. I mean, and I've been there too. Like I came into like my first content creators that I would watch were like more sniping oriented guys, So I get it. I get the thrill of kind of like hitting those big snipes, even in recent years where I haven't worked the auction house as much. Definitely times when I was just getting, renting players for XP. I would never buy them at like their cheapest price. I would sit on the filter for, 10-15 minutes until like I got one at least to the value where like I could break even on the sell, Yeah. And many times it would be way below, or I'd find something else because I was hitting the filters a certain way that it would make me some profits while I was doing that, So I get it. I understand it. And I feel for the guys especially for the guys that like built content followings based on that. So I'm not insensitive to that at all. But just I feel from like a perspective of like how the game is supposed to be just actually played, then we're in a much, much better position. And like people talk a lot about how easy it was to make MT or not MT stubs in the show, but for actually playing, you got almost nothing for actually playing. It was more like the reward packs that you would get if you hit something on there. That type of thing, it was easy to start generating stubs, but like for actually just playing the mode, it wasn't, And that's something that maybe 2K could incorporate a little bit more of, is like giving us some more free packs and not always making them unauctionable, or unsellable packs, Throw us a couple that we can actually, get lucky and hit on and then boost the MT like that. So there are definitely ways to improve. But one thing that I think gets kind of lost on everything is like when you're designing a whole new system of a mode, you kind of have to like pre-plan for like, okay, how can this be exploited? And like, we don't want to put too much MT into the market because it kind of collapses the whole balance of everything, where we have, like too many good cards all the time flooded around, and then we have to make adjustments there. So you kind of have to like build a system where it's a little bit more conservative to start, and then maybe find ways to make it more rewarding, But I don't know if that's just me. I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm too contrarian to like the timeline for no reason. And that may be a thing. Anything else you guys want to touch on with that type of stuff? MT price drops. We haven't touched on price drops really too much.
I have a few points. I just think that like, because like I think that's the thing. I feel like, because I don't know who posted it, but somebody posted it and was like, if you buy a game, you have the right to complain. And that is absolutely true. If you are dissatisfied in your product, you should be able to voice your opinion. However, the idea that like everybody is going to engage in that with you, I think that's what gets a little weird to me. Like, when somebody goes RIP playbook, and it's like, why, like, no, there's no RIP playbook. They just didn't release it yet. Like, just wait a second. I think the community doesn't have a wait and see approach enough at times. And I can understand it, from feeling burnt. I mean, dude, we're talking about the same company that took away LeBron on Christmas from everybody, right? So I get it. But like, I think that
Meech wasn't around
right
for
now,
that, so he's like, "What? What happened?"
That was crazy. Like, I don't know. There was no reason to do that either. That LeBron wasn't that good. They should have let it rock. But I feel like because right now everybody has to play to earn, unless you're spending. And even then, because of like the cards, I don't necessarily feel like outside of Steph or in when KD comes out, I don't feel like there's too many cards you get a real advantage from just yet right now. Like I still get popped by that Jabari Smith. I got C-Web, I got Kemp, I got who else? I just pulled the Karl Anthony Towns, and I'm probably gonna get popped by Jabari Smith today. Like that's gonna happen. You know what I mean? Like I've gotten cooked by Dirk. It happened. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like people get so caught up in those things that they're frustrated in that they don't see beyond how to make it work. And like again, I know I'm kind of reiterating the same point when we started the pod, but I just feel like Meech's approach is really where we need to be at. Like cautious, not saying yeah and being okay with everything, but being able to know you have the tools to curate your own experience. You do. You have the tools to opt into spending or not. Don't. If you don't want to spend. If you want to just use that Chris Paul, let's say you don't get any pre-orders, you could still grind for Chris Paul. You could still grind for the Ruby players from the drops that we're getting that you can get. If anything, they need to make those players sellable. Because if you, let's say you want the MT, let them get the 36K MT. Who cares? Like, why are you making it 500 MT? What, like, I don't, that's what I don't agree with. Like, just allow it to be what it is. Especially since it's something somebody had to play to earn anyway, right? You're doing agendas to get it. So if you get an additional 36K after grinding for however, maybe 4 or 5 games to get one of those players, you walk away with 50K. That's a good day. And that's just from doing that goal. That's a good day. I think 2K needs to like really continue to try to incentivize people to play by adding ways to earn, adding more ways to earn. That to me is the key to all this. Yeah. And yet I don't see that discussion happening on the timeline. I hear like a lot of people were discussing Sam's explanation of badges and like that was the thing. And it was like we're complaining about stuff that's kind of worthless right now. Like that, and that's kind of why I disassociated from the timeline, because it's like it's starting to become a point where I'm not seeing anything useful out there because people are acting as if it's last year. Like, I wish we had this energy last year. I wish we had this energy to complain last year when we realized trophy case cards wasn't getting updated. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And nobody, and there was no smoke for that, and then all of a sudden a bunch of folks got banned for buying MT, no less. And then now everybody want to cause do a movement or something, but not thinking about the experience of everybody else who play. You're just thinking about some subsect of the community, So what's the energy? What are we rallying behind? Are we rallying behind people that want to complain? Or are we really thinking about how this is going to impact the experience and how we're all going to engage in the mode? Because that's what's most important. So I don't know. I just feel like people got to, again, if you want to complain, cool. That don't mean I got to hear you all day. I don't got to hear you complain. I've removed myself from a few chats recently. Just like, I'm not rolling with y'all. I want to have fun, and I still got to learn because I suck at 2K. The last thing I want to do is hear y'all complain all day. That's crazy.
We need lab sessions with Meech,
We do need some lab sessions. We need the coast to coast co-op night too.
Yeah, we definitely need that. I'm like 19 co-op wins away from B-Roy, so I really need that.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So again, we haven't really touched on the price drop thing. You guys want to touch on that real quick, and then we gotta leave this topic behind and get into gameplay, because that's a whole nother can of worms. Price drops.
Yeah. Price drops. So let me take a look really quick, because I'm actually just looking to see. So it looks like the Mirage set actually went down, but let me go back to
How much did it go down? I haven't looked at it today.
So Mirage, it was their first price drop. So it hit the standard 5%, because D Rose is 133K. Okay. So let's go back to the 2K day. Oh no, man. I think the 5% is way too low for the first drop, first off.
I agree.
Now, I know they said they'll continuously drop, but so I'm at the 2K day Amis right now. I'm looking at Clay set. And Bogut right now is 126.
Yep.
So he went from 140 to 133, now to 126.
Okay, so it's another 5% drop. So it's. I mean, I think that like a 10% drop. I was expecting a 10% drop.
Yeah.
If you want
10, I was like, okay,
like 10% and maybe cap it at 30. Like, right? Like to me, that would make the most sense. Like as time goes on, you get to 30%. You go, all right, cool. That's 35. Maybe that's as far as we're gonna go.
I mean, I'd be cool with
continuously drop it. I mean, because
the
card's only going to get older.
Yeah, we're used to seeing like Emmys at the end of the year, like barely selling for quick sell value, like from last year.
Right.
So like 1,000, 300, 1,005, 400, stuff like that. So I think they do need to get to that point at some point,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like 10% initial, or I don't know if it's all like, we're slicing hairs, but a little bit more substantial just off the initial drop, because okay, if you waited, you kind of held off a little bit to do that, okay, reward people a little bit, and then drop another 5% or whatever every week continuously until 75% off or something like that. I don't know, whatever number you want to throw in there, but I mean, I was disappointed, but like I was also like, oh my god, like the whole timeline just blew up. Like it's just like the end of the world, like zombies are coming out, like nuclear bombs are dropping, like it's it. 2K's dead. 2K's the worst company ever. I was just most
dead mode, dead game.
Yeah. And I was just like, dude, like, okay, like take a breath.
I mean, obviously. I mean, the social media timelines, obviously I think sometimes I even go into it, but I just be kind of messing around. I just be having fun.
You don't be going crazy.
I mean, I think so. Maybe not. I just be.
But see, like even when like you're like, oh, I go a little crazy sometimes. Like me and Jones are like, okay, like you can tell he's heated, but he's still like there's measure to like what you're saying, So it's cool. Like you want to like say something and you're upset, explain why you're upset, talk about it, say your piece, and that's cool. But like there's substance. Like I would 100% rather see like a freaking paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3, 4, 5, whatever rant of what's going on than like, oh, game trash, dead mode, move on. Like that doesn't tell me anything. That just tells me you like lack vocabulary. Like,
yes.
So and I know that's like a very like jabby comment, so my bad, but like, bro, like there's only so much of it that I can take, and it's on me to like disengage, like Jones said, just pull off, mute, block, whatever, just delete the app from the phone for a day or two, whatever. That's on me, But it's like I want to engage with the community, man. I like people in the community. There's a lot of cool people like that are doing different things and like making the best out of a situation. Shout out to Stogie. He's been throwing out the playbooks because like you don't have like your favorite playbook. He's giving you options for anyone that you might have. That's dope. That's kind of like making lemonade out of lemons, right? Like that's the stuff that should be evolving. Like you should do something like it's there. This is what we have. Like, yeah, you can talk about it. You can suggest things, whatever. But like if you're just like on the floor throwing a tantrum, like
every time you don't get your way, they don't do something the way you think, you're like, it's the worst thing and this is the worst, and it's like, dude, come on, man. Like that's like me. I like when you go in, because typically you're going to give a well thought out response, even if you completely don't agree, and that I can appreciate. And you don't use like alarmist language where you're like, and you know what, this is the worst, and now NBA Live needs to come back now, and it's like, dude, like stop it, man. Like y'all. And first off, I don't respect anybody who say that, because they wasn't playing NBA Live. I was playing NBA Live, and that game was actually pretty good. But like a lot, like it's just like we got to get to a point where, because like again, the devs are seeing this stuff. There are so many people who are attached to 2K that are seeing some of this stuff. And like, I know everybody wants that acknowledgement of like, oh, 2K's acknowledging my feedback. But just because they're not, it doesn't mean that your stuff isn't getting passed along. That's what I can say. I've seen a lot of people's stuff just passed along all on the timeline. Literally. There's somebody that everybody knows that is constantly doing that. And it's like, yo, do yourself a better job and make a real point using real language. not bro every second, and not like, yeah, this is the worst game ever. It's like, well, nobody can use that. And like, and then, and this is ignorant, but like, it's like, yo, if all that still doesn't appeal to you, bro, get out the space, man. Get out. Like, go play something else. Assassin's Creed just came out. Starfield is fire. Go play a different game. Spider-Man is literally 7 seconds from coming out. Did it come out today? Like, go have fun. You don't got to be here constantly complaining. Don't nobody want to hear that. Because there's plenty of opportunity to make good stuff. To your point, shout out to Stogie. Stogie had a whole different movement. He changed his whole content. Jay's trying to figure out what to do. Like, a lot of people are trying to adjust. I think Jay's just doing anything too. I think he's been in the park. He's out here. He's just playing the game. And like, I think that there's some usefulness in playing the game because that allows us to stay connected. If we're playing co-op, if we're doing, whatever, if we're that night elevate where we ran friendlies, like stuff like that, that's playing. Like, and I like this focus of let's just get them to play the game. Let's just get them to play the game and reward them. Now it has to get better. And part of me wishes we had Trophy Case right now too, because I still think Trophy Case was a good idea. But, if as we get more rewards, like give feedback, put your opinion out there. But again, do a better job of like stating your opinion. Like, stop speaking in absolutes, because a lot of y'all dudes don't know how to design video games. And y'all don't know anything about designing video games. You're just talking. And like, it's cool to just be talking, but like, don't talk to me because you sound like crazy. Sorry, went a little crazy.
No, it's worth it.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, so we covered that side of the state of the 2K community, the price drops, the lock-in, stuff like that. Let's dive into gameplay. I don't know how long you guys have to do this today.
No hard stop time?
I mean, okay. I still have like another hour and change till like hard stop time for me, but gameplay.
However we need. Yep.
But let's dive into gameplay, man. Again, we have wildly different experiences just because kind of what teams we're using, what kind of cards we're running into. And I have ran into a lot of the overpowered cards, just usually not all like at the same time and on the bench. You know what I mean? But I ran into Shaq. I ran into throw whoever, your T-Max, your Pippins, your ADs, your Bookers, your Corvers. I've seen all the cards in different aspects, your B-Roys, whatever it may be. Where are you at with gameplay overall, and just specifically the shooting contests? Because that's a big thing that we've seen on the timeline. And frankly, I just think a lot of people don't understand the contest system. Mm-hmm. But I have also heard that the contest system is kind of designed to be played on HOF in a more green or mist type of environment, and it doesn't work on lower difficulties like online versus. So let's dive into all that, because there's a lot to dive into and digest in there.
Yeah, I kind of start because I hate when I hear, well, I'm not going to say hate. I don't like when I just hear, oh, the gameplay is horrible, stuff like that. Because, and this is, I mean, it's from my experience. Everyone has a different experience on what they think is perfect. I think the gameplay is really, really good, actually. Like, I actually really like the way that kind of pro play blends with the animations you're kind of getting. Mm-hmm. And I think the gameplay foundation is very solid. Me personally, I do think that, like you said, to what you said, Elevate, and MyTeam specifically, it does need, at least for online, offline should be where you can kind of go, your own experience. If you want to play on Rookie all day long on offline, I don't see why you can't. But for an online experience, I think that it needs to be bumped up. Now, I know I go to the stream and I say, put it on HOF. And I say that because that's where Green or Miss is. And the reason I say that, and this comes from because I play, I want to say a lot, but I do play Park as well. I play rec and stuff like that, and I see how the game plays on Hoff in Park or rec, and it's amazing. Like, I'm sorry, I don't care. Well, I don't want to say I don't care, but from my experience between the two, the gameplay is amazing. Like, you have to know your shot. You know, it rewards you getting better at the game, and I feel like it honestly changes the whole gameplay experience, and I'll kind of explain why that is. So in rec, like I said, because you have to be, more skillful with your shot. It makes you take better shots as well, because not only do you have to get over contests, you also have to make sure you're precise on that shot timing. So in like Park and Rec right now, you don't see a lot of people just, going here off a screen just shooting, and just going off here and screen just shooting. And if you do, that team is probably losing more times than not, because the game just doesn't allow it for it to be that way. Well, in my team right now, with the gameplay being, I just say it's on rookie, because I think online versus is a very low difficulty. I've had games where someone has Dame, he's setting the screen, he just run off the screen, shoot, run off the screen, shoot, run off the screen, shoot, run off the screen, shoot. It almost puts us back to what I like to think of as like the in-game MyTeam stage. Now, the gameplay is more solid and foundation, so like it's not as annoying. But when you get someone who wants to like be the gameplay breaker and mechanic breaker, oh, you're gonna feel it. It's not gonna be nice. If it was more on that greener miss, sliders a little bit up, you have to be more precise with what you're doing on the court. You're not gonna see, Jimmy Jones 1, 2, 3 running off the screen with Dana just smacking, dead eyes in your eye. And then it makes it even worse, because people think when I say like put the game on Hoff, that I don't like whites going in. I don't care if you're wide open and a white goes in. I literally don't care, because I got to play better defense if that's the case.
Right.
But if I come and I contest you, if I'm contesting you and I see it and you're still able, and sometimes I've seen it go in on a white and I'm just like, come on now, like really? But I also think the gameplay difficulty is also making it tougher, or no, easier, I'm sorry, to green shots. I don't have like the hard analytical data under it, and I consider myself a pretty decent player. On my team, I'll just be shooting. Boom, boom, boom. It's registering green every time. If I go into my career, honestly, I'm struggling. It's like night and day difference. Like, I have to be so much more focused to actually green a shot. So I think, like I said, it changes the gameplay. If people can't just, run off the screen, shoot, just everybody's doing it. Like, I mean, people with low 3 balls. We got Giannis with a 59 or whatever. He's greening in the corners like consistently. Like, I'm doing it with Giannis. Put a 59 3-ball on a my player and go in there. I bet you won't see that ball go in. Even wide open, you're not seeing it go in. Wow. So it just kind of scares me, because if I'm seeing Emeralds, if I'm seeing Ruby Kyle Korver, I'm sorry, what I do with him is criminal. I'm just shooting at people's face. I don't care. I'm literally, you standing right there. Nope. He's leaning away like this. Red contestant is going in. Green. It's way too easy. So if Ruby Kyle Korver is doing it, Diamond Steph, he's gonna kill you. When you get to pink diamonds, it's just gonna move way too fast with the difficulty that it's at.
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying, Meech. I think there should be a boost. I think there should be like a floor, like a higher floor, where like you're below this rating, you could shoot 1,000 threes wide open and you're not going to make them. I think there has to be something like that, where you just cannot make a shot. The ratings have to be there for like some reason. I know, even if like in real life, if Shaq shot a bunch of shots wide open, he'd make one. I get it, but like, we're talking about gameplay balance in a video game, right? And I think there should be thresholds of stats where it's going to be very difficult to green after a certain amount of contest. I wrote a whole freaking dissertation on it in the Discord. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not, but there's also a lot of times where I see like, oh, look at this crazy shot going in, and I look at the contest and I'm like, bro, you're not contesting right. You don't understand like the concept of contesting a shot. You know, you're getting there super late. You know, dead eyes is popping off. It's a high 3-point rating, and like because you're kind of like getting there at the vicinity, in the vicinity of the player's space at the very end. Like you're like, oh, you shouldn't make it. I'm like, no, that's not how the NBA works. You give them daylight, hand down, man down, right? We all know that. And I've run into Dame and Kyle Korver in salary cap actually, where he was running Dame and Kyle Korver, and then whatever. And like the first couple minutes of the game, he was freaking dancing around screens and just popping everything. And I was like, oh damn. And I adjusted and I switched my settings, you know, on those guys. I started fighting through those screens a little bit more. I think people don't know how to fight through screens in this game.
I can see that.
And like
turbo. By the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't hold turbo. Get off both triggers, you know, so you don't you're not in defensive stance because you're gonna get caught. Like you gotta like make yourself thin. Like in a real, if you're getting around the screen, you're not gonna like slide through it. You're gonna like try to like get it through, you know, or you're gonna shoot the gap or whatever. But there was adjustment. The point is like the dude started getting contested more, started missing more, and you know, the game was really, really close. It wasn't an issue because I adjusted, you know? So would I like to see the difficulty go up? Yeah, not to half, I don't think, because like you've played all-time Dom each. Like, is that the experience you want? Like,
so
you know, so
on that actually, I wouldn't mind it, but and you learn this from my career, okay? I think that's where you I think you felt it a little bit more. Now, the half domination is just, I don't know who designed, like that thing is different. But I think the reason that it's so frustrating, it's not the defense that AI plays on you. It's the shots that the offensive AI is making on you. And if you put it on that in my team, I'm sorry, but Jimmy John 1-2-3 still has to time his shot. Jimmy John 1-2-3 still has to get open. It's not the defense is just clamping you to like oblivion where you can't do anything. It's the fact that they're literally making you look like Jimmy John 1-2-3, and the AI offense is splash. You know, so I think that's, from my experience at least, I think that's the more difficult, frustrating part with that.
So kind of like the balance of that is that, like you get to a point, like, so in my career, rack, whatever, you have like your jump shot that you can kind of like tailor your animation to like whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you know, and you kind of can get more intimate with like the different timings on that animation, with contests, with jumpers, with fading shots, with whatever, you know. When you're constantly in flux of making, you know, changes to your lineup, then it's a lot more difficult unless you're like hardcore labbing, you know? So that's where I see where like for the, and we're all players that, I mean, you're probably the best one here, Meech. Jones, you're pretty solid too, man. We played a couple games, you know? I think you're like me. I think you're inconsistent. Like some days you're just like on, and then some days you're just like, bro, like what is this game? Like we playing cricket 2K24? What are we doing here? But at the end of the day, like you do want people to like feel like NBA players, you know, like Kyle Korver, it was a knockdown shooter. Like if you didn't like clamp up on him, like he was going to get his points, you know, like now a team wasn't going through him 100 times a game, you know, because teams are adjusting and they're playing him, they're taking away, they're going to make him put the ball on the floor. They're going to take away certain things, you know? So there's that. But like at the end of the day, you do want your elite shooters to feel like elite shooters. Like you don't want to spend $1 million on or close to $1 million on Steph Curry, and then like he can't make a shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a balance. I think like something closer to superstar would be cool for Unlimited. But I'm also, and this is a big thing, I'm also totally fully on board for like a ranked competitive mode where like when you get into the higher echelons of those tiers, you're playing on HOF. You're playing on these really stringent, you know, green or miss type of things, and you're playing there. And it's not linear, like you progress through it and like work your way through it, but like it's based on like your ranking. Like if you're just not playing at the level where you're staying in those levels, you're playing at a different difficulty level, you know, and you're getting rewarded per game on that, like not for finishing tier. It's like different. I gotta flesh it out and talk to you guys about it a little bit more at some point. But I'm totally cool with that, you know. But for like a mode like Unlimited, which is supposed to be more like, okay, here you go, everybody come play. It's less forgiving. You're gonna advance whether you win or lose. I don't think being like at a half difficulty level is good for like the player base of the mode, because you're gonna cater to like the people that are hardcore, that are really good, et cetera, et cetera. But you're gonna absolutely chase away like anybody that's kind of dipping their toes in that.
Yeah.
So then every single game is gonna be a sweat fest to the maximum, you know. So like, what world do you want to create is kind of what I'm going with on that.
Quickly, and not to take up too much of your time too in that space, just a quick interjection on there. I think that there's a world in where it all can exist in Unlimited. Honestly, that just came from MLB. The way that I love the way that they kind of framework their game. So if you just think about a situation, think about a world in where, in Unlimited, you have the point progression system. That's your main indicator of how you're going up and down in the mode. Well, let's assign two different things for players. Let's give them the point progression, so win or lose, whatever the case, that stays the same. You still progress to the tier. But let's give, people I don't know what you'll call it, a skill ranking, a battle score, where, win or lose, you're still getting unlimited points. That doesn't change, but depending on how many wins and losses you're getting, your skill ranking is directly reflective of winning and losing games. So if you win games, you get, 15 points, whatever to your whatever. If you lose that 15, 20 points, whatever the case is. And then that skill ranking has a tier system. So if you're at 200 skill player points, you're playing on online versus. If you're at 300, now you're on All-Star. If you're at 400, now you're on Superstar. 500, now you're on Hoff. And that carries over through the seasons. So if you're a good player within the same Unlimited system, no one's affected by winning or losing games. Right. But if you're good enough, now you're getting yourself into that Hall of Fame tier, the All-Star tier. And maybe that's a thing, that can kind of, so you don't have to make a whole separate mode for it. It can kind of be within the same thing. Just kind of give people like a ranking score or whatever the case is. And
I'm on board with that too. Like it's essentially it's like an ELO system where like you have like a strength rating, like like in chess, like you're ranked a certain strength or your play, whatever. And then when you play, I agree. Like we already have that kind of in like SM, skill based matchmaking, but like it's kind of a mystery where you're at. You just kind of have to guess based on the players that you match up with, where you're kind of at. And you're not getting rewarded anymore for like playing, 250K qual guys like every single game versus somebody who's playing, Timmy who just loaded up the first time, And I'm totally on board with that. Like make it somewhere where you're playing at something that's catered more to your style, to your skill level. Reward accordingly towards that. Give them a multiplier for MT or whatever. I like the agenda stuff for the, like Chris Bosh stuff, but I don't think that should be like an everyday type of thing where you have too many cards like there, because then you go into like this whole thing of like, well, it's gate kept. That's my favorite player. It's like if KD's little Timmy's favorite player, like he can't get him ever because he's got to win 85 Unlimited games in a row to get him, like I feel for you, little Timmy. But more rewards with like multipliers on MT, so you can buy whatever card you want. Some agendas mixed in, like the Bosch thing. Like I'm totally cool. I was super happy they did that, even though that's not catered. I made a tweet about it. It's not catered to me. I don't even like Chris Bosh. I'm not a Chris Bosh fan. Like I didn't like LeBron winning titles here in Miami when I just like when I was here and I was a Laker fan. Like and I had to watch Kobe struggle in the twilight of his career. I wasn't happy about that. So
the string title, not getting Chris Bosh.
Exactly. So I mean, there's a world. There needs to be improvements for sure. And I agree with your take on difficulty needing to be adjusted upwards. And again, I'm not seeing so much of it just because my team isn't that good, man. My team's like tiny little budget team that's, matching up with other teams that aren't super, super souped. So I have a different opinion of it, but I agree it should go up for sure. Jones, you've been kind of just sitting on the sidelines.
We
just not letting you speak.
I kind of agree.
You know,
I agree. I think I definitely think the difficulty needs to be raised. I don't think there's any question now. To be honest, I've been having trouble like this week though with like the contest system and shooting, like probably more than ever. Like I'm not shooting that well with Steph. I'm not shooting well with anybody. So I do like the idea of being in an environment where the contest system is going to work a little better. Like I'm finding some of the pokes, like the paint contests, are weird. I was like facing you guys, and then another defender was facing not me. He was facing the same direction I was facing, and still registered a red contest on me. And I was like, what? Like, so I just feel like the contest system isn't really in a good place anymore. And I think the broader point, though, to be honest, is the fact that 2K and MyTeam really do need a ranking system. I think it's just time for it. And myself and Books, we were actually just talking about that on Tuesday. Most games have a ranking system, you know what I mean? Because that's kind of what players need to differentiate themselves. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I finally understand why competitive players act the way they do and talk the way they do, because simply put, they shouldn't be talking to us. Like, you know, outside of Meech engages in that competitive stuff. But like me, you know, matching up with Splash, I should never match up with Splash. I should never match up with Splash. And I could never even speak to being on that type of level skill wise. But because 2K has this approach of like everybody just play anybody, you know, I think that it doesn't serve the game well. And I've been saying that for years. You know, I just think that if we're going to have this new environment where, you know, there's no auction house and we're all playing games, and yeah, we need a formal, very real rank system. So yeah, I didn't have much to say because you guys were echoing all my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think the ranking system should be like how you qualify for like these tournaments that they're popping up with, like 1UP and stuff like that. Yep. Like that's a world that, like, again, like you said, Jones, like we don't really, like, me and you don't really care about that too much, you know?
No.
I mean,
no, we don't.
It'd be nice, you know, like it's like one of those things where it'd be nice to like walk in there for a little bit and you know, surprise myself or something, but like I don't really need that. Like I don't need that. No. Like I'm not in that place in life where that's what I want to focus on, you know? Like it takes too much energy to like be at that level, and it takes playing the game in a way that I don't want to play it, you know? So but I think that should be rewarded, and it should be rewarded in a way that doesn't appeal to me either. Like I don't want to like qualify for some big old tournament that like I can, you know, make 10K from, or, you know, it doesn't even have to be like that much money, but like if there's like a monthly tournament where like somebody could, you know, win a couple G's for like, you know, getting into the final four of it or whatever, like, bro, that's some good money, you know? Mm-hmm. So I think there's got to be stuff like that that's more catered to them, and a ranking system. So you know, Splash could be like, yo, I'm ranked number 1. Ty, like where you at, you know? Yeah. You know, and like that's what's kind of important to that community, and that needs to be catered to, and it needs to be catered in a way that either is like a separate mode, or like what Meech is kind of saying, like kind of weave it into like the structure of it, but make it rewarding and, you know, valuable to them, you know? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of improvements that can and should take place. But again, it's one of those things where like you can't tweak too much of what we all have to like engage with to cater to like 1% of the top 1% of the population of gamers, you know, skill wise. Yeah. That just doesn't make sense from like just mathematical perspective. You know, if like it's the whole gameplay is tuned to 1% of the player base, where does that leave 99? You know?
Right. Well, so like I think that like there's like, you know, I don't know if you guys engage in like any other games, but like I'm a very casual watcher of like certain like fighting game like content creators, and if you ever look at their high level players, like how they act, how they respond, how people act when they match up with them versus in 2K, dude, it is night and day. And it's night and day again because there's a clear difference. Like those games that they play, you know, again, I would not be able to match up with Justin Wong, who's like literally the greatest fighting game player of all time. I would never match up with him. And if I did match up with him, it would be like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Maybe I'll be able to get some combos off on him. When it comes to 2K and I get matched up with Splash, the first thing I go is, I don't want to play this ever again. Every time. And like, that's the problem. That's actually the problem. And I think that's what I've been saying this for a while. That's why I think the competitive scene, the freaking 2K League, they have a brand issue, a very, very real brand issue. To where the people who engage in 2K don't even respect any of that stuff. And they want it separate from their experience. But to your point, Elevate, it's all together. And 2K needs to do a better job of making ways for that community. That community is very important. And like in other gaming communities, like, you know, that high level feedback that they get from their competitive players allows them to tune and do all these different things versus like in 2K, the casual player can have so much sway. You could see some dude who has 100 followers tweeting at Mike Wang. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can be a bad thing when it's like, oh, well, this guy wants something that's so different from my experience. Whereas like, it's not like that on the other side. And I think it's because it's just too open over here. We need like to bring it all together. We need something that like folds all these things into each other so that the community can really be one. And, you know, I used to almost blame it so much on the community, but it's actually not. It's really on 2K, and they're missing the mark here in this area in a big, big way. Because these communities somehow, even though you could argue, aren't really successful. You could argue the 2K League isn't that successful. You can argue that the comp scene is a very niche group. But because of that lack of growth, it's impacting everybody. And I just think that the 2K really needs to look at that. They really got to look at that and go, how are we supporting these people? Because it's bigger than just a tournament and events. It starts with matchmaking. It starts with ranking systems. Like that's where you gotta begin. You can't just bypass that for the sake of like, you know, because every company you engage in, whether it's YouTube, Netflix, they all want all of our time. You know, that's actually the measure of success at this point. So it's like, yeah, you know, the measure of success isn't, yeah, I got SpacialJones. He doesn't turn his system off Monday through Friday because he's grinding games while he's working. You know, it's more about, you know, how do we like highlight these huge moments in our community. Like I know a lot of people were so excited that Ty and Splash matched up. I didn't even know about it, didn't even care. Those are those aren't just two of the greatest MyTeam players in the mode, but 2K has only been around for 23, 24 years. Those are two of the greatest players to ever play 2K, period. And nobody cares. Mm-hmm. That's a bad thing. That's not good.
Meech, you have anything else to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, I don't know. They have 2K has I want to say a hard job. Yeah. You know, I understand it could be difficult, but I don't know. Spatial just really hit on a lot of good points, man.
Yeah, I didn't even know what to say after his rant. It was just like on the point. I was just like, all right, let's wrap it up, man. We good. You know, like
no, I mean, he hit it head on. It's just, you know, there's elitists at, I want to say everything in life.
Yeah.
You know, you know, there's an elitist at the workplace. There's an elitist at playing instruments. There's an elitist at fighting games. There's an elitist at making money. There's elitists at everything. And, you know, they, I don't want to say control the flow of the whole population of that, but they have a huge impact on it, you know? Yeah. And I think it just goes to what Spatial kind of talked about, and it being, and I'm not going to say that, you know, nobody cares, but more people should know. You know, that should be, them two just matching up should be a big thing across 2K.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, watching those guys should make more people say, hey, I want to get to this. if that's the thing. But it does become an issue when, I would say, a very skewed part of your player base hates that section of it.
Yes.
That's a really big issue. And so I think that kind of ties back into a lot of stuff. 2K as a whole needs and that's why I'm okay with kind of the gameplay stuff they're kind of doing now. I know they were playing a game, but and maybe this is kind of what they are getting to. I mean, I'm thinking about it a little more deeply, as you said, because like I said, I have respect for, Flash Ty. Like, I'm friends with a lot of comp guys. Like, I mean, I talk to them. I'm in chats with them. I respect those guys in the way they play, and I, have nothing against it. It's not the way that I like to engage, personally, how I like to play. But I get it, and they're very skillful for what they do. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of the way it's going, because you can see a lot of the gameplay things starting to change. Or at least it seems like they're intentionally trying to get away from it. And I don't know, maybe they're trying to appeal to their broader player base. And again, like I said, if they make the game more simulation oriented, there's elitists that are going to be there. I'm kind of thinking about it in a roundabout way. Obviously, there still needs to be something for those, ultra competitive guys, but I don't know. Maybe this is the turnaround with all this new technology that they're trying to reform the meta, reform the elitists, not just because of like they don't like said person because of personality or whatever. But maybe it's just, I mean, I would have to like fully watch like Madden, I guess, to really get an idea. And the reason I'm saying this because I know that like the MLB guys, the MLB elitists, those guys, like, MLB favors the sport of baseball. Like, there's not any weird things. Like, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, everything looks like baseball. It feels like baseball. This looks like what I watch on TV. But these dudes just have like the hand-eye coordination of like gods or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're elite in that way, but it still resembles their sport. I'm not sure if Madden looks wonky at a competitive level or not. But I know they have all these playbooks, and I know that a lot goes into, kind of like the Madden elitists. So I don't know. Maybe they're trying to make it more basketball and then grow their elitists from there. Yeah. And then maybe at that point they want to highlight some more stuff.
I could see that, like this being the great reset. To your point,
yeah. And I've heard books talk about this. Feel like that. I've heard books talk about this with like the evolution of the competitive scene and how, like, in its infancy of like development, like you have to overexploit things to like point them out so that they get like out of the game, and as it evolves, you have less exploits and it becomes more of a skillful thing,
right.
In the fighting game community. And that's a big thing. And that kind of ties into what you're saying is like, I don't think a lot of people that dislike like the style of like the 2K League and stuff like that, they wouldn't have an issue with like watching really high competitive stuff if it looked more like the sport of basketball that we see on TV. Yeah. Like you're saying, if that, and I don't know how to fix those things. Like, if you were like, all right, well, just fix it here, I'd be like, I don't know, but like there has to be steps that get taken to like patch those exploits that are like overly, like last year it was just like run at the rim with your eyes closed, blindfolded, and just push X and like you're good. I let my son play. He never plays 2K. I was like, all right, like if you beat the CPU in triple threat, like we'll do something. And he was just like, he just walked to the rim and just pushed X. Like he wasn't even doing anything. He was just doing that. And it was just like, okay, this game is broken. So there's always going to be something, and like I love the way the paint defense is. Like, I think it's pretty close to perfect as far as like the paint defense. You were talking about some weird contestant stuff, but like, I like this version of like the paint play and like getting into the lane. You can make some interesting layups if you have timing and you have skill. But if you're just kind of running in there or just kind of like pump faking and going like, I'm just going to stand there with my hands up and you're going to brick it. You know, like I like that, you know, unless it's a crazy matchup. And even, you know, which again, that's on me for getting, you know, Chris Paul caught up on Shaq, you know, like what do I expect is going to happen in the low post, you know?
Exactly.
And I think they're not too far off. Like if they just tweak the shooting a little bit to penalize non-elite shooters making contested shots, like I think we're in a good place, you know? Because I'm like you, Meech. Like if somebody hits a wide open white, like bro, that's on me for letting them get wide open. Like, what do I expect? They were pretty close to green, you know. Like it doesn't seem to go in like all the time, and it seems to go in when like I feel like I almost greened the shot, but like it was just a little off. Then like I'll get blessed with the white, you know. If you hit like the front of that white window, and it just the shot feels really wonky because of the load up or whatever. Like you usually don't make those shots. I don't know if you guys have noticed that when you're shooting. I know green, you know, Mish doesn't shoot a white ever, but you know, but I shoot some whites, you know. But it's like when it's almost there, I can notice it on the free throws too. Like it feels like when I got the timing pretty close, but it's just not a green for whatever reason. Like it tends to go in, and that's another thing with free throws. Like stop making late free throws and early free throws. Let's fix that a little bit. But again, like I said, I don't think we're that far off with shooting. It's just when it's like super heavily contested and like you're greening. I had a good conversation with Bufik on Twitter about contests, and you know he doesn't want like super highly contested shots to be able to be greened, you know, and that's kind of like your trade off with green or miss kind of mindset. You know, in a purely pure green or miss thing, you either green it or you don't. And defense is irrelevant, you know? So there's a lot of nuance that goes into that. But again, I don't think we're too far off with gameplay. It's just a couple little tweaks, little gameplay boost in difficulty. Anything else you guys want to touch on that? What we just said about that?
No, I don't. Well, it's just like a very small little tidbit. Just like for because I didn't mind the 2K23 greener, like I didn't mind it, and I didn't feel like it was, at least to me, I don't know, I could be blind or not knowledgeable about the whole thing, but I didn't feel that people were too upset at the greener miss, or so than the shot timings being all over the place. Right. But that's why I feel like there was still like a place, you know, for it. But in that green or miss like atmosphere too, I don't know, it's hard because if I knew that, like I said, if I knew the game was like in my career where like if you're greening, like you're timing it, like I mean to the T. Now if somebody came up and I contested them and they greened it, I don't know, I feel like I would be less upset about that, knowing that it's harder to do that. Now, of course, you can't just do it every single time. Like, I mean, you can't just be literally like in someone's grill like this, and just because they're timing it, nothing else matters. But like you said, Elevate, a lot of the clips that we see, you really aren't getting the contest you think that you're getting. You know, sometimes I know the game may register some, and a lot of people. One thing that I actually did learn from RCA, I honestly suggest everyone to do it because it calmed me down on the shot contesting a lot more. It's gonna be weird. Turn your shot feedback off. I don't know why it works for me, but when my shot feedback is on, I catch myself getting so pissed. Oh my God, look at it. This thing says red. And most of the times we're not going back through the replay like you're saying, but you know, you're seeing, oh, this thing is red. And then Elevate slows down the clip and like the ball's out and your hand just got there, but the game just registered it as red. So it's also, you know,
and it's a low red too. It's like 37% contested, but it's a red. And I'm just like, bro, if I score 37% on a test, like that's an F, bro. Like that was an F contest. You know, like what do we you know,
I mean, they just think about it. I mean, you had a 37, contest. So, I mean, think about the opposite end of that percentage. That's the percentage you had to make the shot. So, like when you think about it, it's like, okay, this makes sense that it went in with this timing. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I think just turning up the difficulty a little bit hard. Like you said, I like the gameplay. I think it's almost there. I just think it needs to be slightly bumped. I won't even say half anymore. I won't even say green or miss because I understand that gives a whole different experience. But I don't know, man. Wrecking Park, they're dealing with it. And I know it's the intricacies. You have your own player and stuff, but just maybe like a little bump, even if it's not green or miss. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not going to get too into it because we got to kind of wrap up a little bit here. But I mean, for one thing, it wasn't purely green or miss. Like you still saw whites go in every once in a while yesterday. So right there, it wasn't green or miss. The green window was much larger last year than it was this year. So especially online. So again, it was like you're just greening the shots that you were whiting last year type of deal in some things. The big thing was how many different like factors could play into your shot speed. That was the big thing last year. So they've tightened that up this year. You don't have as many. You still have your load ups depending on catch, depending on contests, whatever. Shot sped up. You still have a little bit of that, but it's much tighter in that. And then the green window is a little tighter too. And of course, if difficulty was up like around the superstar level, I think is kind of a good balance. Like if I play like Dom on superstar, like I'll see like maybe 1, 2, 3 whites go in a game. Maybe. Yeah. It still feels like I need to be more open to really get a solid green window. I'd also love to see like the code and see like how much the green window is shrinking depending on contest. Like, cause I think that makes a big difference. And it makes sense. I think if like the green window is, you say it's tightening up the more contested you are, and you still kind of have like especially with an elite shooter where you have a little sliver of it where you can green it. Then I think that's fair as well because you got to respect those shooters. And we see players make crazy, insane shots. I watched Kobe play his whole career, man. Like the dude made some 100% contested shots. Like, and some games it was like he was doing that the entire game, and there was jack crap you could do about it. You know,
right?
And that's kind of what's exciting about basketball is like you're like, damn, bro. Like, well, this guy is just on. So I don't know if that's kind of like only in takeover with an elite shooter type of deal where like you can hit those like super high contested shots. I've kind of like thought about maybe throwing like a different type of timing window where like the green window will like shrink, but toward the front or the end of the green window, depending on it's a late contest or an early contest, to just kind of make it a little bit of variation, but still, okay, if I know, okay, this is the early contest, I got to like go towards the front. So it's more skill added to like greening crazy shots. I don't know, but overall, I agree with you guys. The gameplay is in a really solid spot. It's like a couple little tweaks away from being like really probably some of the best gameplay we've had, and particularly with the pacing, but it is worrisome if they don't change it for pacing down the line, how it's going to get. Any closing thoughts, guys? Anything you guys want to plug yourself? You guys want to tell people you want to find out? I've also heard some requests for like guests and stuff like that. I know we talked about that a little bit. We wanted to kind of like build this chemistry and do that. Chemistry with the guests down the line, maybe a thing. What do you guys think about that?
I think guests would be cool.
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it.
So maybe we'll work some stuff in. We're gonna try not to take any more breaks from like the 2-week schedule. So sorry about that, viewers. Appreciate you guys rocking with us. Anyway, any parting remarks, guys?
Rachel?
Looking forward to next time. I think this was really, really good. Our chemistry is getting better and better each time, and it's my team, so I know we'll have a lot to talk about.
For sure. Want to plug yourself? Where can they find you? All that good stuff, guys. Sub to the new YouTube channel that we have together.
Yes, please sub to the
guys.
Drop
a like, channel. All that stuff, all that YouTuber stuff.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a X down the line. Follow us all on socials, Project Elevate, Call Me Meech, SpacialJones. Our socials are basically the same everywhere, so please drop us some follows. Support our streams. Elevate streams every day. Meech streams. I stream every Friday at least. So check us out.
All right, y'all. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much for checking it out. We'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.